Awesome. All right. Today, guys, we are here with Kristan Cole. She is the founder of the KCN Network, KCN Worldwide, which is an expansion group in Keller Williams based out of the Scottsdale, Phoenix, Arizona area. Kristan, take a moment just to give a little more of an introduction than just that brief thing I just did for you.
Sure. So I started my career in Alaska, in Wasilla, Alaska. I still have a hub there. They created a lot of profit and my people wanted more. So we started expanding outside of Alaska. We're now in 55 locations. Last year, we closed 1,737 transactions, which equated to about 13 million in GCI and approximately 450 million in volume. I'm also the OP of 4 market centers here in Arizona, where our expansion hub is located, and own a couple of mortgage companies and title companies. And I'm a mother of 5. I'm married to Denny Grimes, who's a bold coach.
I'm familiar with Denny.
What's that?
So I'm familiar with Denny.
Yes. So maybe that helps a bit.
Excellent. Excellent. So silly question. How do you go from Alaska to Arizona? That's completely literally polar opposites of each other.
You would think so, but I actually went to college in Tucson, Arizona, where I majored in finance and real estate. So I'm a wildcat.
Okay.
And then also after I joined Keller Williams, so I was with RE/MAX for 25 years, joined Keller Williams in 2009, and Gary Keller asked me to come to Austin, Texas to take an assessment, which I had no idea what that was about. And then he actually asked me to get in his leadership track, and they offered me a position as the regional director for Arizona and Nevada. So initially, that's what brought me back to Arizona.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So I know you went to school at Arizona and Tucson for real estate. Was that your plan, was to get into real estate? How did you choose real estate for a career?
So initially, it wasn't my plan. Everyone told me I should get into business. And when you're 18, you can be a little rebellious. So I actually applied to be an electrical engineer. And after 2 years of absolutely making myself miserable, I moved to the business track. I didn't even tell anybody. So when I graduated, everyone was like, I thought you were getting an engineering degree. No, I changed my mind.
Excellent. And the rest, as they say, is history. So, what's one of the best investments you've made, whether it's in time or money, whatever it is? What's one of the best investments you've ever made, and why?
The best investments I've made and made early in my career were in relationships with people. And I'll give an example. When the oil market crashed in 1986, and in that 3-year period of time from 86 to 89, it went from $100 a barrel to less than $10 a barrel. Literally every house, people would just take the keys to the bank. And interestingly enough, the relationship I had with a lot of bankers, they ended up calling me to sell their bank-owned property. So because of the relationships we already had, that's not why I got into a relationship with them, but certainly it was it turned out to be a really great investment. And Craig Thorne with First National Bank of Alaska is still my banker, been my banker for 35 years. And the great thing is, when I've bought additional properties or wanted to purchase a business here in the lower 48, he always writes my bank letter. So I would say relationships, because when you look at the opportunities that I've had, which included, oh, by the way, that bank also, when they couldn't sell some of their bank-owned properties, they gave me an opportunity to buy them through the bank, owner finance. So there was so what I would say is, anytime there's a difficult time, whether it's an oil crisis, an economic crisis, an attack on our country crisis, or a coronavirus crisis, there's always opportunities in it too. And if you stay in the game and you stay in the middle of the problem, you'll start to see the opportunities. And if you've invested in the relationships, those opportunities will show up.
Wonderful. That's awesome. And It's a very unique perspective. Most people, when asked that question, take a completely different tack. I appreciate you doing that. That's great. So, Kristan, what's one quirk or odd thing about you that most people may not know?
Well, it's funny that you say that because one of my daughters has the same quirks, or a couple of them, a couple of the same quirks. So one quirk that I have is I usually have 3 drinks open at the same time. I'll have coffee, I'll have like a Propel, and I'll have a Diet Pepsi. That happens
That
all
eliminates
the
you
time.
being Scottish right off of the bat, because a Scotsman is going to have a bourbon, a whiskey, the Scotch.
And you know, it's funny. I didn't even realize I did it. It was my oldest daughter that took a picture of her counter and sent it to me. And I'm like, what's this? She goes, Mom, I'm just like you. I have 3 drinks open all the time. Also, I didn't even realize I did it. That's how quirky
funny.
it was. Another quirk is I am right-handed and I wear my watch on my right. I'm right-handed and I wear my watch on my right hand, which usually right-handed people wear their watch on their left hand.
Precisely.
So
Yeah.
the reason I did it was back in the day when we hand wrote purchase and sale agreements and hand wrote listing agreements. That was
I
before.
remember those days.
Yeah. So I would be doing a contract and I'd look at my watch, which I know people thought, well, is she trying to hurry me? Or so I just moved my watch to my right hand because then when I was writing a contract, I could see what time it was.
You could slyly look at it and without.
They never knew it. Right.
Awesome.
So that, and my oldest daughter is exactly the same way. She doesn't know why she wears it on her right hand, but she does.
Well, she learned it from you. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
So what habit do you have that most positively affects your life and your mindset?
Highly competitive. But in terms of the habits that support being highly competitive, I'm very, very structured, very, I have routines, and those routines, because they're purposeful, because the focus is very narrow, and because they're all calendared, it allows me to accomplish a lot more in a day than most people. I've had people tell me all the time, I've never seen anybody that can get more done in a day than you. And it's not, it's just the use of time, how you use your time, because everybody has the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just very purposeful. I'll give you an example. For instance, I will always have a list of people to call so that when I'm going to and from work, I can make those calls. If I am on an airplane, I'm listening to a podcast. When I get ready in the morning, I'm always listening to something. I use every second of every day very purposely, because there's some things that you can multitask. You can put on makeup and listen to a podcast at the same time.
Yep. Not that
So
I would know
I
that
would
personally,
say,
but I could envision that happening. So.
I could say that most people would be surprised by my schedule, but what I would say is it's highly boring, and also, highly boring is great all the way to the bank.
I like that. Now, Kristan, let me ask you, with that level of focus in your production and productive part of your day, does that allow you to focus better on your downtime?
Yes. What I would say is there's a quote called "Be where you are." So when I'm with Denny in Napa, like I was this weekend, I am not thinking about work at all. Zero, none, nada. So I'm able to be very, very highly focused on one thing. Like if I'm with my kids, I'm highly focused on that. And there was a quote recently that I really like: "High tolerance for boredom is a highly underrated superpower." I would say that that's pretty much my superpower, because I have a high tolerance for doing boring things over and over and over and over again, day after day after day, to win.
Excellent. That's awesome. And Kristan, last question here is, what bad advice do you hear most in our industry?
Well, what I hear is that real estate gives people freedom to be able to go to their kids' games, to be able to lead a life making choices about what they get to do with their time. The challenge with that is real estate does give you freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, anytime you want, which is what I love. However, most people don't understand the other side of that, and that is you have to be have your calendar very I would say, very, very segmented, such that you still can get everything done. Like, for instance, when my kids were growing up, if I went to one of their games at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I just chose to work later and make up the time. Meaning, people don't realize that the only way you get to freedom is to be highly structured and highly focused. And to me, most people, they forget one thing. You need to have a freedom number. What I mean by that is, a number for me, I had a number, and it changed throughout my life. When I first got into real estate, my freedom number was, I want to make $100,000 a year. Well, over time that changed. And my freedom number today has everything to do with, do I have enough passive income that I can get up and do what I want to do every day with who I want, when I want, anytime I want? And the answer is yes. And I am doing exactly that every day. And at the same time, for instance, I'm going home Friday night to take my grandkids to the state fair and coming back. That's to Alaska. I'm coming back on Tuesday. Most people think that's nuts, but to me, that's what I want to do. So Danny and I are flying to a Giants game. Eli Manning they're retiring his jersey. We're flying to the game and flying home same day. So we do crazy stuff like that. But I love the quote, be where you are. Because there's nothing worse than being with somebody and you're talking to them and they're looking over here or over here and they're not really listening to you. So whatever I'm doing, I'm focused on that. I'm not trying to be a mom when I'm at work, and I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to create and do work when I'm with my kids or with my husband or with other friends. So I can narrow my focus that narrow. Most people try to multitask, and it ends well. It doesn't end well.
Awesome. Kristan, I really appreciate the time today. We've been chatting with Kristan Cole, KCN Network, based out of Phoenix and Scottsdale, Arizona, with over 50 locations here in the United States. And I would venture to say this year, she's probably going to be in that 2,500 plus or minus transactions for the year, which is an absolute powerhouse. If you have any questions or would like to get in touch with Kristan, you will see an email at the bottom of the screen that you can reach out. Guys, I appreciate your viewing, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much. Bam.